The new book, Faith, Family, and Flag, Branson Entertainment and the Idea of America, is a comprehensive history of the Branson entertainment industry within the context of America's long culture wars. Joining me now to discuss her new book is author Joanna D. Das. So good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm very intrigued by this book because I am a former Branson entertainer and lived there for years. So I'm just curious what the catalyst was for this book and your inspiration and why write about Branson?
Sure. Well, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and many of my dance teachers growing up were from Branson. And so I was very familiar with the Branson entertainment industry from childhood. And I moved to New York City for college, became a professional dancer, but always also loved history, went back to school to get my PhD. And I felt that Branson had been overlooked in American history. And I felt that Branson was vitally important to American cultural history and especially theater history. Sometimes people think of Branson as a country music town, but I think of it more broadly as a theater town. And I felt its part in the American story had not really fully been told, and in a scholarly context. There are several excellent local histories of Branson, but I felt that on a national scholarly landscape, the story of Branson deserved to have a place in that conversation.
Well, it is fascinating. I've lived there for years. I know a lot of the entertainers. So can you give our viewers a little idea about the arc and the story of the book and what you hope they take away from it?
Sure. So the arc is chronological, and I start with Harold Bellwright's publication of The Shepherd of the Hills in 1907, and how that catalyzed a new type of tourist, someone who wasn't just coming for the lakes and the fishing and the boating, but someone who was interested in meeting characters, right? And so people in Branson began performing kind of a version of themselves for these tourists, and that is kind of the start of the entertainment industry. And so it goes chronologically from there all the way to the COVID era of the early 2020s. And in each major kind of phase of Branson entertainment, I connect what's happening in Branson to kind of national conversations that are happening culturally and politically, and where Branson entertainment fits into those conversations. And I frame the book around, as the title says, the three F's, as many in Branson call it, the three F's: faith, family, and flag. And I wanted to do that in order to honor, first of all, Branson's kind of way Branson sees itself. And then I added a few F's along the way to fill in some gaps, such as folk and frontier, to really talk about Silver Dollar City and Shepherd of the Hills, and free enterprise to talk about, Branson's very pro-business ethos. So I added a few F's in there, but that's kind of how the book is framed.
I love that. Everything you've just said, I learned once I moved to Branson. You know what I'm saying? So as somebody who's what I consider local and learned that over the years, I identify with everything you just said, and I agree with you, which is fantastic. When you're talking about the entertainment industry, when you're looking at like kind of the Branson of the 90s with, the stars moving in and the heyday, tell me about some of the Branson entertainers you interviewed and kind of what their take on you writing a book about it was.
Yeah, so I interviewed people from Bob Mabe, who is one of the founding Mabe family members of the Bald Knobbers Hillbilly Jamboree, all the way to people like Marty Hughes, who have come more recently, and people who came in the 1990s heyday, as well as some, backup dancers and kind of performers that weren't stars, but were a part of Branson's kind of performing base. And, many of them were curious to see why I wanted to write a book. Some excited about me bringing more national attention to Branson. But, there's also the trope of, there's this documentary about Branson called We Always Lie to Strangers, right? So there's a little bit of a hesitation and is she going to reproduce this liberal elite academic coming into town, making fun of locals. And my hope is, and that through actually talking with people and people getting to meet me in person, that they know that that's not what I'm trying to do, that I come with a fundamental respect for Branson entertainers and the job they do. As someone who danced professionally myself, I know what it's like to put yourself out there on stage, but also at the same time, be aware of what are the messages being promoted in Branson, both on stage and off, and what are some of the battles that they've faced both internally and that honestly we've all faced on a national scale over the past few decades with the culture wars. How do we stay true to our own values, and not try to get so polarized, but also still stay true to our own values, right? So I think that's a struggle that I connect with on a personal level, and that I think Branson has faced over the years.
I'm glad you brought up the Mabe family. My last name is Rabe. One letter difference. When I moved to town, people thought I was saying Mabe. They thought I was part of the family. And I'm glad you brought the documentary.
You should have taken that road with
I should have. I'm glad you brought the documentary because that was very polarizing for some people, and I know people in that documentary. And quickly, too, I want to know, you have an event coming up on November 12th at the Meyer Library?
Yes, at the Meyer Library at Missouri State University campus, room 107. It'll be at 5:30 p.m. And I'll be talking about the book and also love to hear questions and engagement from the audience. So I welcome anyone there, and I'm hoping to bring a few copies of the book with me. The official publication date is November 25th. You can pre-order it now, however, on any kind of online bookstore website. And I'm hoping to have a few copies in time to bring with me on the 12th to Meyer Library.
Oh my gosh, I'm serious. I have 17,000 more questions because of the Branson connection. I could talk to you for hours. I'm not even kidding. I'm getting the books. I want to read it and get your take because I love what you've done. You're paying tribute to Branson, and I love that so much, Joanna. Thank you so much for writing this book. Can't wait to see you on November 12th at the Meyer Library Center at MSU. Thank you so much for your time. Good to see you, my friend.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.